Hi class. I'm going to go ahead and show you another example of Photoshop today. And today we're going to be using masks. And I'm going to show you how to desaturate a photo, but leave one part colored using a layer mask. So if you see over here, what we have is we have a layer. We have a layer mask, a desaturated copy. And if I make this invisible, you have a color copy. All right, and then I'm going to show you how to save this into your own account and then drag and drop it into your drop folder so I can go ahead and give you credit for it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So have Photoshop open and then go to File, Open, and then go to the Common Drive under Dugowitz, and then Photoshop Tutorials 2013. And I would like you to go ahead and open Photoshop number 2. And you'll notice that it is simply a full color copy of a young girl with a butterfly on her nose. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to color correct this, and this will be a little bit of a review from last week. So if you remember, you can double click on your hand on your toolbar. If you double click on it, the image will fill your screen. Also, then you can go to Image, Adjustments, and we're going to go ahead and use Brightness and Contrast right away. Brighten it up just a smidgen, and a little bit of contrast, but not too much. That's too much. That's not enough. Right about there. Say okay. And just to review, another adjustment that we learned about last week was hue and saturation. And just saturate the color in the second slider. Saturate just a little bit. That's way too much. It'll look like a poster. We want to just saturate those red tones a little bit. And say okay. All right. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to start working with layers today. And in case your layers bar is not open, you can go ahead and set your desktop up under Window and make sure layers is checked. Don't uncheck it if it's already checked. If you want to uncheck anything else that might be checked, don't uncheck your options or tools though. Those are two that you always want to keep on because options are up here and this is of course your toolbar. So one more time, make sure layers is checked. All right, so under layers, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and right click, duplicate the layer, and say okay. So what you'll notice is that you have two of the same exact photograph. But now what we're going to do is we're going to make the top one, not the bottom one, the top one, which is currently selected because it's blue. We are going to desaturate it using the same tool we already know how to use, which is hue and saturation. So we're going to go under Image, Adjustments, Hue and Saturation, and we're going to pull the saturation all the way down. And remember, we're doing this to a different copy, so we're not undoing what we did before, we're just changing it. And say, okay. So it is a black and white photograph now. However, if you notice on the example that I showed you in the beginning, notice that this one has a little bit of a sepia tone to it, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do. So on your black and white desaturated background copy, you're going to go back to Image, Adjustments, and it is one down from hue and saturation. It's called color balance. Now, hopefully that you remember that brown can be made from adding a little bit of red. So I'm taking the top slider and you'll notice that my image is turning red. I'm going to just do it a little bit. A little bit of green. Not too much. And a little bit of yellow. Until we find a nice color brown. All right. So once you find that color brown, you can go ahead and say okay. But just for future notice of what the power of color balance can do for you, like for instance, if I wanted to make a monochromatic photograph here, what I could do is I could take the slider, and let's say I wanted to make a cyanotone. That's called a blue photograph. And we can just adjust it. So cyan is another color for blue. You can also make it a little more green. You can give it a little bit of a purple tinge by adding magenta. Just so you guys know that, you know, once you desaturate something, it doesn't mean that it has to just stay that boring gray, black and white. You can add a little bit of a tinge of color to it, and sometimes that can be kind of nice. In this case, I want to keep it that kind of brown color, and the reason is it goes along nicely with the color of the butterfly. So in this case, that is about the correct answer. So the red, well, your color levels are, I really do want you guys to just eyeball it. Find a nice shade of brown. All right, and say okay. And what you'll notice now is you have an upper and a lower copy. And if you were to hit the visibility indicator along the side, that little eyeball, you'll notice that that one's now invisible, but the underlayer, the colored layer, is still intact. If you bring it back on, and it's like a sandwich. Okay, so now the part that I'm going to show you is a layer mask, and I like to refer to it as kind of like a magic piece of tracing paper, because you can cut something out of it, but then heal it back up. So what we're going to do is basically cut a hole into this photograph with a layer mask, and then I'm going to show you that if you make a mistake, you can correct it. So make sure that you are on the background copy, the desaturated, now brown or sepia tone one, and down here at the bottom, there is a layer mask indicator, and it says add layer mask. It kind of looks like a rectangle with a white circle in the center. I've also written an example up on the board for you, and you click that. You'll notice that it turns white, and it's like a magic piece of tracing paper, like I said. Now, if you come over to your toolbar, and I want you to find your eraser. It looks like a pink pearl eraser. It's 2 under the clone tool, about halfway down. Click your eraser. All right, and the next thing I want you to do on your toolbar is to make sure that your foreground and background colors are both on black and white. Your foreground color is the square that it's in front, and if you hover over it, it'll say set foreground color. In case yours are not black and white, you can click it and then select white and say okay. And then if you click the background one, it's the square that is set behind it. It'll also say set background color. You can click that and then go ahead and select any color of black. Doesn't matter on which side. Then it's set up that way. Also, the thing I want you to notice is that there is a little curled arrow. And if you notice, it's right next to your foreground and background color. And if you click it, it'll say switch foreground and background colors. And it'll switch it. That's important because I'm going to teach you how you can fix a mistake. So remember that that's there for you. You can switch them back and forth. Okay. Last thing I want to make sure that you do is we're going to set our eraser color, or eraser size, hardness, and opacity. So you can do this up here where the eraser is. You can click this drop down. Hardness, I'm going to say at around 50. Size is right around, why don't we make it about 20? 20 pixels. I've got 28. That seems to be about right. Okay. Another way you can do this, by the way, is if you want to adjust the size of your brush, you can right-click and it'll give you the same option panel and you can adjust these. And then if you just click outside of the image, it won't do any damage. So if you notice, I'm over here in the gray or in the negative space. Okay, so the key here is being on your layer mask. So if you look closely at your background copy, you should be on that one, it should be blue. There is a white square and it's like a layer on top of the desaturated picture. And you should notice right now, if you go back and forth, and you'll notice how one is selected, like currently mine is selected with the selection square over the top of the desaturated desaturated picture, and then over the other one, the white one, it is now selected because it's got the rectangle selection over the top. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and show you this whole thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna erase just around, and this image is pretty forgiving. Oh, I made a little mistake, if you notice. Make a bigger one. I'm gonna show you guys how you can correct that. So I just went ahead and I'm just making all the color come out. But I have this issue right here. I made a mistake. Well, the beautiful thing about this magic piece of tracing paper called a layer mask is that if I switch it to black, black brings it back, and you can go ahead and fix your mistake. If you wanted to go ahead and continue erasing, for instance, this girl happens to have a reddish tinge in the iris of her eyes, which is kind of interesting. And if you wanted to do that, you could. Again, black brings it back if you got a little bit too aggressive there, to fix it. Okay. So hopefully you were able to do that. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be here with you today. I'm going to go ahead and show you this again tomorrow. But how to finish this up, what I would like you guys to do is go ahead and File, Save As, go to your own account. Remember the number that starts with 20, whatever, whatever. Go to your photography folder. And I'd like you to save it as a PSD. A PSD will save your layers. You can continue, just keep it the same exact file name. You don't need to change that. Just make sure it goes into your own file and say save. Okay. Then I would like you to go ahead and drop it into the drop folder. In the drop folder, you're going to need to set your desktop up like this. So you're going to open up your photography folder. There it is. Go back to computer. Go to the common drive. Oops. Okay. Sorry. Okay. The computer was kind of freaking out on me. There is the common drive under Jukowitz, base hour, and Eric, I'm going to pretend I'm you. And you're going to go ahead and drop that Photoshop by drag and dropping. You could also copy and paste, and that goes in your drop folder, and now you're done. Okay, good luck.